Students of class 8A and 8B, look at the board and see the points as I mentioned. The points I mentioned. Point number 1, introduction of Enfield Rifle. Point 2, humiliation of the British. Point 3, Mongol Pandey's execution. Point number 4, 3rd Bengal Light Cavalry. Point number 5, Mirat. First point, introduction of Enfield Rifles. You know, the British introduced a new rifle known as Enfield Rifles. These rifles were introduced by the British because these rifles had special qualities, these rifles had specialities. Number 1, it could target any person easily. If once it was used, the person whom it was targeted, the persons were killed surely. And next one, jerking was very less. Weight comparatively were less. The weight of the rifle was comparatively less than the previous system of rifle. So the British decided to provide some facilities to the soldiers. But one problem also was there. Why was that very problem? Because there was a system of loading the cartridges of the rifle, cutting it through their teeth. That means the cartridges of the rifle was to be loaded by cutting the cartridge or cover of the cartridge in the teeth of the soldiers, or by the teeth of the soldiers. But there was a rumor that the cover of the cartridges were made of fat of pig and cow. Pigs are hated by the Muslims and cow is the sacred animal of the Hindus. Naturally, both the Hindus and Muslims felt insulted and they refused to use the cartridges of the Enfield rifle. It triggered off the revolt because that very rumor. Paper cover of the cartridges were greased with cow and pig fat. That rumor spread among the Indian sepoys. So they decided not to use the cartridges of the Enfield rifle, newly introduced Enfield rifle. Both the Hindus and Muslims refused to use it, and the introduction of these cartridges were seen as an attempt to pollute their religion. They thought it so. So the British, instead of understanding the sentiments of the Hindus and Muslims or the sepoys, they punished those who refused and forced them to use it. They did not want to use it because it harmed the sentiments of both the Hindus and Muslims. That's why they did not want to use it. They refused to use it, but the British forced them to use it. And those who did not want to use it, they started punishing them. So this is about Enfield rifle, introduction of Enfield rifle. Next point, humiliation of the British. The British humiliation was going on. Why? Because of the introduction of Enfield rifles. The Enfield Rifles were made bulk in quantities. So many rifles were produced by the factories of Britain, from the factories of Britain. So Britain supplied it supplied it to India for the Indian soldiers and soldiers or sipais of the British army. Since the British spent a lot of money in making such rifles, and the sipais, especially Indian sipais, both Hindus and Muslims, rejected it, refused it to use. That's why the British decided to teach the sipais of India a good lesson. Why? Because they forced them to use it. The British didn't care for the sentiments of the sipais of India. Although they heard that rumor, disagreed the Hindus and Muslim sipais to use that very rifle. It hurt the sentiments of the Hindus and Muslims, but the British forced them to use it and decided to punish them because of the reason they disagreed to use. And next point, Mangal Pandey's execution. Who was Mangal Pandey? Mangal Pandey also a sipai in the British army. Mangal Pandey was in the Barakpur regiment. He himself also refused to use. As soon as Mangal Pandey was ordered to take up Enfield rifle, from there it was kept. These were kept on the ground, and one British army officer also was there, present there. He ordered all the sipais to take up Enfield rifle one by one from there for using. Some rifles were taken out from there by some sipais who were very peaceful, and some of them who were very much aggressive and determined not to use it. They did not want to use, they refused to use it. So when the turn upon Mangal Pandey came, Mangal Pandey was asked to take up that rifle from that very place, but Mangal Pandey, far from doing it, Mangal Pandey openly declared it not to be used. Openly said, "Sir, I don't want to use this rifle." That officer asked why? Because it harmed the sentiment of all Indian sipais. You live Indian sipais, you talk to me about yourself. You have no right to think of others. Now you tell me about yourself, not others. So you tell me why you have problem. Sir, I have problem because I am a Hindu sipai, and the cover of the cartridges, the cover paper of the cartridges is made of fats of cows and pigs. Cows are the holy animals of Hindus, of us. We always worship it. Cows are worshipped by the Hindus. So it's the fats of cows and fats of pigs were used while making the paper cover of these cartridges, and it has to be cut up through our teeth. It harmed our sentiment, our religious sentiment. It was against our religion, so we can't do it. He politely, in polite form, he answered. In polite form, he said it. He said to him so. But the officer grew very much offended. and ordered him either he would take that very, Enfield rifle from there and use it, otherwise he would teach him a good lesson. Mangal Pandey became furious. Mangal Pandey became furious and he immediately killed that very officer. And as soon as the officer killed, he was arrested, he was caught and was arrested. And on 8th April 1857, that incident took place at Barakpur. Barakpur regiment. Mangal Pandey was caught and then he was executed. Mangal Pandey's execution caused great unrest in the army camps across India and sparked up revolts in Meerut, Delhi, Kanpur, Jhansi, Lucknow, Banaras, Ayodhya, Bareilly and other places in northern and central India. The wave of anger also reached our state, Bengal. Berhampur was a historical place. The Sipahis of Berhampur also refused to use. But it is said that, I don't know whether it is right or wrong, but what I have learned by studying different books written by different authors, different historians, Mangal Pandey's incident took place at Barakpur, but the first incident took place at Berhampur, in Berhampur Army Regiment, beside the square field ground of Berhampur. Square field ground when the Sipahis were marching with their guns. One officer suddenly came and asked them to come back and to attend one meeting. So all the Sipahis joined the meeting. The officer conducted a meeting with the Sipahis. He explained about the utilities of this very rifle. But many soldiers, they did not have any knowledge of that rifle. But later on, there was a rumor in the yard that the cartridges, paper cover of the cartridges were made of fat of cows and pigs. Naturally, they decided not to use the rifle. And they openly said to the British officer, "Sir, we don't want to use this rifle because it harms the sentiment of us. Either you allow us to use the previous gun, or let us leave the job because we don't want to use this rifle." That news reached Barakpur regiment also. And then they also refused to use the same rifle. So that news incident first happened at Berhampur. Then that wave of anger reached Barakpur also. It is written in some books, but I don't know whether it is right or wrong. But many of us who studied many books written on Sipahi mutiny, they will be able to learn that incident took place first at Berhampur, then Barakpur. Anyway. And next incident, Meerut. Meerut was a place, famous for many historical events. 85 soldiers of the 3rd Battalion, 3rd Bengal Light Cavalry, refused to use or to touch or to use the Enfield rifle or the cartridges of Enfield rifle. Why? Because of the same reason. On 9th May 1857, that incident took place. The soldiers were dismissed and sentenced to 10 years imprisonment for their disobedience. This infuriated the sepoys and they attacked the British officers in Meerut, broke open the jails and released the imprisoned sepoys. They looted the ammunitions and set fire to British property, determined to bring an end to British rule in India. The sepoys of Meerut, they grew very much offended because they heard the news of Ayodh. Ayodh was annexed by the British by bringing false allegations of mismanagement and maladministration. The Nawab of Ayodh, Wajid Ali Shah, was a very peaceful man. He was the first person to accept all the terms of the British in order to avoid confrontation with them. But still, his state Ayodh was annexed by Lord Dalhousie. The soldiers who were from Ayodh, they all felt insulted for their Nawab, Wajid Ali Shah. Meerut also sympathized towards them. Why? Because Meerut was not far away. Meerut was near to Ayodh. Naturally, they unanimously supported the stand of Nawab Wajid Ali. So the protest of Meerut, the protest of the soldiers of Ayodh, forced the British to do something for the satisfaction of the satisfaction of the Nawab of Ayodh, Wajid Ali Shah. So the British decided to give Wajid Ali a sum of rupees 12 lakhs per year as pension money. They paid 12 lakhs per year as pension to the Nawab of Ayodh, Wajid Ali Shah. Why? Because they annexed Ayodh. For that reason, the soldiers of Meerut, Ayodh, they grew very much offended. That's why they refused not to use, but refused to touch the Enfield rifle. As soon as they followed that system, the British imprisoned them. Later on, they were inspired by the ideals of some revolutionaries or some thinkers who encouraged them through the handbills, pamphlets. They read out it, some of them read out it, supplied it to each other. They heard the news of the French Revolution of 1789. The revolutionaries broke the main gate of the Bastille jail in France and raised the flag of France, independent flag of France, in front of the Bastille fort. That incident came out of their mind, came out in front of them. So they themselves got themselves united and also followed the same system. They broke the gate. They broke the gate, came out of the jail, and they released other imprisoned sepoys. And then they looted the ammunitions, set fire to the British offices, British properties, and determined to bring an end to British rule in India. That incident took place at Meerut, my dear students. Next day, the remaining part. Thank you.